So Outreach Officer is a new role this year. What do you think that this role will add to the JCR Executive Committee, and how will you work to bring the three aspects, which are CCA, the JCR Environment Officer and the JCR Charities Officer, together?
Well, hi everyone, I'm Christina. Thank you all for coming down today, and it was so good to meet so many of you in canvassing. First of all, I think there are so many aspects of outreach that already do link to the Executive Committee. With the Environment Officer, he's been running lots of campaigns. Obviously they're different to the welfare-related campaigns, but there are campaigns being run. And one thing I'd really like to implement is integrating the USO's role and getting lots more sports and societies involved in CCA-related activities. A couple of years ago, women's rugby went to, or it might have been women's football, they were at one of the primary schools helping out. And it'd be good to have netball down doing a community meal, or football helping out at one of the schools, have big bands tutoring some music. So that would be one area that I'd want to improve. As well as that, something that is looking at being implemented is having a USFCC with for community projects, so in a similar way that we have sports and societies, also for community projects, so that obviously links to the Treasurer. So there are so many ways that it's already linking, and I want to improve to link it in more with the Executive Committee. As well as that, at the moment, outreach role is kind of seen as CCA with charities and environment on the side, and I want to change that so that the three strands can work together and to build up the charities and environment role. Ben's done a really good job this year of increasing the role of Environment Officer and running lots more campaigns, but it'd be good if he could have a subcommittee so that more campaigns could be run. So potentially one for Livers Out, saying where you can buy second-hand bikes, the bus timetable, saving money on heating, water, electricity, that kind of thing. As well as helping Livers In one to help with the allotment that's in development at the end of Fellows. And with charities at the moment, the main thing that's done is awkward formal, but it'd be good to increase the number of fundraising events. Because in some colleges, Chad's, Joe Butler, Aidan's, they have really big charity sectors, but they don't do as much volunteering, so it just happens that in Castle it's the other way around, and there's no reason for charities not to be bigger in Castle. So it'd be good to have an event each term. In Joe Butler they do this thing called like a clothes swap, where people donate clothes they don't want anymore, and then you pay £5 to enter and get given tokens, you just swap clothes. So things like that to improve the profile of charities and environment, so the three of them can work together as one outreach role.
Hi guys, I'm Ella. I just want to start out by thanking everyone that I've canvassed this week. It's been really nice to talk to lots of you, and I'm really sorry if I missed you. But yeah, I totally agree with what Christina's been saying. She's definitely right across the board. So I think it's about time that an outreach role finds its way on the exec. Formally, everything's just been about CCA predominantly, and we really need to raise awareness about external charities, external volunteering work through the charities officer role, and then we also need to up the environment awareness that's going on in college for sure. So I think that this new charities division that we've sort of developed is a great opportunity to work with other aspects of the exec. I like to think that we can work with welfare campaigns and development in particular. So a lot of you might not be aware, but welfare and campaigns aren't really allowed to fundraise themselves. That's totally okay, but why can't we bring in outreach on the side? So Think Big Formal is a great example. Campaigns raises awareness for breast cancer, cancer in general, and then outreach can come in on the side and charge that extra £1 that would go towards the charities themselves. People still want to go to formal, they still want to have fun, and this isn't going to just hurt or take away the fun from that. And then with development in particular, your new development officer, Owen, he's really big on careers. But you might notice that the only careers that are really promoted within Castle are predominantly financial and banking related. But why can't we highlight really respected careers within a non-profit, a charity, that kind of thing? That really needs to happen. So I really like to refer to the outreach officer role as sort of like an umbrella role, because it covers CCA, it covers a charities division, and it covers an environment division. And at the moment, CCA is really highlighted within college, so we really need to focus our attention on the charities bit and the environment bit. So the way I like to see it working is if someone wants to work with CCA, volunteer for us, but we don't fit with their schedule, we can point them in the direction of the charities officer, who can then open them up to DUC and SCA, so university-wide volunteering projects. And with the environment in particular, Ben is doing wonderful things, and unfortunately a lot of people don't really know what's going on. So in a few weeks' time, Ben will be launching a food waste project across the university, which is really wonderful. And I think that role really would benefit from having a subcommittee, just so we can all know what's going on, and then we'd be able to have bigger events within college, more campaigns such as a Green Week, a Green Day, or even a Green Formal. So yeah.
All right, so moving questions to the floor. Do we have any? Yes, Alex.
What are your three favorite charities, and what's your least favorite charity?
So that is, what are your 3 favorite charities, and what is your least favorite charity? Starting with Ella.
Right, okay. First and foremost, I think Mind is a great charity. At whatever part of university life you will be at, everyone at this stage in life, you will have encountered someone who has dealt with a mental illness, who might have encountered depression, or you yourselves might have felt yourself affected by something like that. So Mind's great that it deals with that. And then, as I've mentioned, so Cancer Research UK is awesome. They do great things. I think it's really mean to ask me what my least favourite charity is. I couldn't possibly say that at all. I don't think that's fair. The whole nature of a charity, on one hand, you're raising awareness for a really important cause. A lot of them, they raise money. It's really about bringing awareness to certain aspects, to those in need, the more vulnerable. So to say that there's a bad charity out there, the whole nature of it, none of it could be bad.
I actually am a big fan of lots of small local charities. I think Friends of Coombe Hospital, which we're raising for at the moment for Eva, is a really important charity, and there are ones that are very close to me, like hospices that help care for people with cancer and other terminal illnesses that do really good jobs. And while the large-scale charities they obviously do wonderful work, and they do lots of great scientific research to help combat cancer, mental illnesses, things like that, there's actually a really big role that smaller local charities play in raising awareness and having a big impact on the ground. In terms of least favourite charity, I think some people could say that the JCR is being treated as a charity at the moment, with stealing of certain facilities.
All right. Any more questions from the floor? Yes, Peter.
With your role, you're allocating money to different people. You only have a certain amount for many good causes. You're going to have to choose how to allocate money, not just within CCA, but how to allocate funds to charities outside. So we just had a question similar to that. My question to you is, how would you allocate money? How are you going to try and make that decision? Because it's a tough one.
So that is, how will you try to allocate money?
So obviously within the outreach committee you've got CCA, which is a totally separate entity to the charities officer. Charities officer, for those of you that don't know, is a role that raises money for charities that aren't CCA. With fundraising activities for CCA, I think it is at the moment very clear that, say, the CCA auction, that is raising money specifically for CCA. And I think at the moment it can sometimes be a bit unclear as to where money from some charity events, other charity events, is going. And so I would propose that with the charities officer, in terms of deciding where the money goes, the outreach committee would nominate a few charities, both national ones as well as ones that are local to the northeast, or perhaps specific to college, like we are at the moment, and then have the JCR vote on it. I feel very strongly that the JCR are the people who are raising money for the charity, and they should be the ones that vote for where the money goes to. As well as that, I think at the moment it's very clear that we have Awkward Formal, and that people know is raising money for charity that's not CCA, and CCA Auction is raising money for CCA. But if we were going to increase the number of fundraising events for things that are not CCA, that needs to stay that way, that the money does not go to CCA and that it goes to the charity that it was meant to go to.
It's definitely a difficult thing to sort of decide where money is needed most. As an example, within CCA at the moment, we're currently lacking in funds for something such as our shelter packs, which would be a huge addition to our homeless division. I think when it comes to deciding where money should go, we should look at what we already have, what's in need, before we sort of look at introducing a new fundraising effort or a new project. As I've mentioned, there's stuff that's already happening within CCA, but as Christina has mentioned, now with this charities officer role, that would deal with external charities. So if we sort of focus our attention away from CCA, there should definitely be some collaboration on what we would want to fundraise for. Definitely JCR involvement. It shouldn't just be one person ever making that decision. It should never be the outreach officers solely who would make that decision, and that's why it's so good that there is a charities officer, a vice president of CCA, soon to be renamed, and an environment officer to do that. And yeah, we can also open that up to the JCR so that more of you have a voice and can be heard. With new fundraising efforts, as they are always needed, I've been sort of mentioning this as I've been canvassing. There are a lot of balls going on in Castle. I think we should really stay away from that if we're going to fundraise again. I propose something a bit different, maybe a big fat quiz in the Great Hall. You know, we don't want to take away from June Ball, Halfway Hall, those kinds of things. But just to recap, allocating where funds should go, it's never one person's responsibility. Well, it is one person's responsibility to do it, but it should never be one person's decision. There should be collaboration across the board. People should be heard.
Yes, Archie.
Obviously, we want our first outreach officer to be a really nice, altruistic person. So what's the worst, most selfish thing you've ever done?
That is, what's the worst, most selfish thing you've ever done? Starting with Ella.
I'm so sorry, but I hurt Alex. I hurt. And I lied about it. I said that Alex cried, but I cried. Just some context here. I made Alex cry in first year when I ignored him for a whole year. But yeah, I was really horrible to Alex, and yes, it's worked out for the best now, but I'm sorry I lied.
I told Jimmy that I really liked his Mincinos and I'm just not a fan.
Right, another question. Yes?
How do you feel your personality type is suited to the role?
How do you feel your personality type is suited to the role of outreach officer?
That's a really interesting question. I think that to do any role on the executive committee, you've got to be organised, like have very good time management, get on well with people because you're working as part of a larger team. But I think the outreach role is specifically one where you've got to get on really well with people because you're working with not only within CCA, you're working not only with the elderly people, you're working with the homeless, you're working with young kids, and you're working with people who have come from a lot of different backgrounds. So I think working well with people is something that's really important, and I've had a lot of experience doing that. I'm head of the elderly care division at the moment, so I spend a lot of time up at the care home. We hosted an afternoon tea down here in Yundee where we had 40 people come down. So I've spent a lot of time working with the elderly, as well as in my gap year working in schools. So I've had a broad range of working with a whole group, with lots of different groups of people, and I think that's really important for the outreach role. I think also just being really interested in the environment. I'm a geographer, so I'm always interested in the environment, and yeah.
I think to be outreach officer or to be any member of the executive committee, you need to be approachable, you need to be outgoing, you need to have a drive, you need to be driven. Just to be a friendly face so that you can represent, so for our case it would be representing CCA, charities and the environment, so outreach across the board, across this umbrella if you will. And I would consider myself to be very friendly, I'm very approachable, as I've been canvassing. You know, I've just been chatting to people. It's been less about telling them, you know, what I want to do. That's one aspect of it, but another aspect is getting to know people. And I am not afraid to tackle any new situations. And within CCA, you know, at the community meals, for example, you're meeting lots of new people, vulnerable people. They've come from all different backgrounds, and just, you know, being confident to chat to anyone and everyone is really important. So we would, as outreach officer, you would be liaising with the JCR, the UNESCO team, and college office as well. So to be unafraid of tackling some complex issues, to not be afraid of putting your foot down, because you know these people sometimes, you know, they have different ideas to you. You know, they will provide limits to what you can do, and putting your foot down to make sure that your voice is heard is really important. And I'm not afraid to do that at all.
All right. Do we have another fun question? Anything? Fraser, did you have a question?
A serious one, yeah. Obviously, Ben is starting up his food waste thing, but I wondered what plans you have or what you would like to do to expand volunteering opportunities beyond that, in both CCA and the Environment Committee.
So given Ben's new food waste plan, how do you want to expand the outreach opportunities beyond that?
Right, so a lot of you might, obviously you all know that outreach is a new position on the exec, and before we go ahead and do literally anything, we really need to sort out the structure and the organisation of what is going on. There's not even been an update to the standing orders to give the charities officer a clear role description. And I think before anyone comes up with a new fundraising effort beyond what Ben's doing now, which is wonderful, that really needs to be sorted. So I'm sure we can all agree that if I was to say I become outreach officer, if I was to go ahead and launch a new fundraising initiative without having this initial structure, it would never be as successful as it could be. So in terms of introducing something new, we already have our divisions, we have tutoring, we have our community days, we have our residential, there's lots of stuff going on. And as I've said to many people, I think 4 heads are better than 1 for coming up with a new fundraising idea. I don't think that it should just be me that comes up with it. We should look at what's going on within college to see what needs to be addressed. Food waste is a big issue in college, and Ben's already addressing that. So we really need to get volunteers involved to help out Ben with his food waste initiative, for example. We need more volunteers across the board. So to sort out those really important things first is key before launching anything else. But a new volunteering initiative doesn't necessarily have to be a new project. It could be a fundraising initiative, it could be an event within Castle. So as I've said before, it could be a big fat quiz, it could be a new ball, it could be something like that.
So CCA, for those of you that don't know, is probably the fastest growing volunteering group of all the colleges. I think that's reflected even from this year, having Team 7, which is a new project, having the Age UK Intergenerational Tea, which is new, having the shelter packs, which is new. And I think a really key thing is just establishing those to make sure that they continue for next year, but not just continue, they continue to grow, and so then we can implement new projects and expand CCA even further. I think with Alex and Fraser's idea for a UNFCS, that acronym for community, I think that will help us expand CCA and increase the number of projects that we're able to run, as it means that not only people from CCA, but people from across college who want to do any kind of volunteering project can apply to this committee for funding in the same way that sports and societies do. And just with my example, with elderly care, I've had this Age UK Intergenerational afternoon tea in the Undie, and I wanted to do it once a term, but I've only been able to do it twice this year because of lack of funding. So having this committee here so that I can actually apply and get the money so that I can have another 40 people in for the afternoon tea is a really great thing. And with the Environment Committee, I think if there is really good scope for Ben or whoever is Environment Officer next year to have a little subcommittee. I've mentioned already potentially having someone as a Livers Out rep to do campaigns for them, because as a Liver Out, I recycle, but I don't know where can I buy a second-hand bike. Like, it's a long walk from the viaducts of Tyneside, viaduct to MC, and that's something that's really useful. And as well as that, Ben's also developing an allotment at the end of Fellows Garden, and that's not something that he can do alone, along with his projects that he's doing at the moment. So I think increasing the committee for environment so that then there are more volunteering opportunities available, as well as increasing the funding available for CCA, is how we can increase the projects and ultimately increase the volunteer numbers.
All right. Are there any more questions? Yes, Al.
What's your best CCA-related chat-up line?
What's your best CCA-related chat-up line? Starting with Christina.
I'm stumped, Al, you stumped me. Yeah, I'm absolutely stuck. Oh, Elle, you
Shall we widen it
Elle does improvise musicals, like
CCA-related joke.
CCA related. So, okay, so I've got a charities joke. So under the outreach umbrella. Why don't oysters donate to charity? Because they're shellfish.
I'm definitely a bit out of practice with chat-up lines. Don't know about jokes.
Song?
A song?
End of dance.
Wait, a song?
Yeah.
Can you change the question?
Okay, can't change the question. Can I tell any joke? Does it have to be CCA related?
Yeah, everyone's saying yes.
I mean, what did the ox say to his son when he left for school?
Bye, son.
Bye, son. Why did you have to ruin it, Claire? It's never going to be very good.
All right. Is that it? So I'd like to have the candidates for one last question.
Volunteers are a very important part of CCA. So what song would you sing to attract more volunteers?
So that's a song to attract more volunteers to CCA.
Okay.
This is a song that accurately describes how I feel, well, in the chorus at least, how I feel about CCA. If you could all clap, that would be great. 1,000 miles from comfort, we have traveled land and sea, but as long as I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. Salted in the sea, but as long as I am with you, my heart continues to beat. With every step we take, fear to feel it, stolen to casualty. We're different and the same, gave you another, switch up the batteries. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Know with all of your heart you contradict it. When I am with CCA, there's no place I'd rather be.
when you're volunteering or you're raising money for charity, it's really key to be happy. So this one will definitely need clapping because I've got a microphone in my hand. So if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Alright, thank you. I'd like Candice to say their names one more time.
Christina Slater.
Ella Taylor.
Alright.